Welcome back to the Under 24 podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy, and I'm joined with Jason, as always, as my co-host. And it's been almost a year since we've done our podcast. So we want to thank you for listening on whatever platform you're on right now. And to start our podcast back up, we wanted to start it with a guest. So we have Sam here. Thanks for joining us, man. How you doing?
Doing good, guys. How are y'all doing? I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So let's get right into the topics. And first, we're going to go into the Julio Jones trade, in which he got traded to the Titans. So this past Sunday, the Falcons traded their wide receiver Julio Jones to the Tennessee Titans. The deal was wide receiver Julio Jones and a 2023 sixth-round draft pick to the Tennessee Titans for a 2022 second-round draft pick and a 2023 fourth-round draft pick. So who is the winner and loser of this trade? Sam, I'll start with you.
Thanks for the question, man. I think this trade was ridiculous to hear because the Titans got a great deal out of this. I mean, a second-round pick and a fourth-round pick. That Atlanta front office, they're on something else, man, because I'm not sure how they got that through. I'm not sure how their president saw that trade and thought that's a great idea because, Titans got Jones for basically nothing. And I think that was a great deal for them. And I think, Atlanta really took the bad end of this deal.
Yeah, I definitely understand your points, Sam. But one winner I have is Calvin Ridley. And the reason is he can put up big numbers. And with Julio Jones on the team for 9 games, Calvin Ridley put up almost 1,400 yards. And I think without him, Calvin Ridley will easily become the number one wide receiver. And being that, I think he could easily make the Pro Bowl and be an all-pro wide receiver for these Atlanta Falcons. But even though they got a new great number one wide receiver, the Falcons also lost this trade. Because according to reports, they were offered a first-round pick. And they could have easily taken that trade just like that. But the reason they didn't is because they just put him up for trade too late. And had they traded him earlier, they probably would have gotten that first-round pick. But because they traded him later, they had to settle for a lower pick value. And because of waiting too long, now they missed out on a first-round pick, a lot better compensation for a player as great as Julio.
Yeah, I agree with both of your points. And on paper, the Titans obviously won. They only gave up a second and a fourth, and they got Julio Jones and even a sixth-round draft pick in return. So for the Titans, they obviously won this trade. They basically, like you said, they gave up nothing to get Julio Jones, one of the best wide receivers. So for Atlanta, what this means is their only winners is their receivers. Kyle Pitts, the tight end, the rookie tight end, and Calvin Ridley, like you said. They're gonna get a lot of receptions from Matt Ryan, and with this, I think they will be able to compete not only now but kind of in the near future. So for Atlanta, I think that's their only win. And this Atlanta team was really bad. Just at the very end of games, this team could have been a really good team or even a playoff team, but the Atlanta Falcons just had very bad miscues at the very end of games, like that Cowboys game, and I think it was that Lions game. They just had very bad finishes to the game. And I think this team can win more games than last season. It just depends on if Calvin Ridley can be that number one option.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, Ridley being open is great for his career, for his development. But at the same time, you got to think, Matt Ryan's reaching almost, 40 years old now? Was he 36, 37? And I know Brady's setting this, standard of old QBs, throwing it down. But I don't think Matt Ryan is that kind of guy. I don't think he has that same work ethic and same lifestyle that Brady does. So I'm not sure, them losing a player is still a win for them because that's still less great targets, for that offense. So I think we're just going to have to wait and see. But, I mean, even then, I just have a hard time comprehending what went through that front office because, to me, draft picks, if it's a first-round pick, it makes a lot of sense. You can kind of predict who's in the first round, you can make plans, you can strategize for it. But a second round pick and a fourth round pick, that is a very volatile area. Usually, you might get a dime in the dozens, or you might get stuck with whatever else is out there, right? You have no idea what's going to be there. That's more work for that front office to strategize and figure out who they're going to draft. Drafting is an insane thing. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of, deals and talking with other teams and college players and a lot of recruiting. And, it's very, very, it's a lot of work. And I'm not really sure what went through their heads again. But yeah, I think like Jeremy said, on paper, Titans really got the dub on this trade.
Yeah, I just feel bad for Falcons fans because they've been choking ever since, the Super Bowl's lost. So
for sure.
Yeah.
So with the Titans offense, they now have Julio Jones, AJ Brown, and Derrick Henry. So what are the Titans' expectations for this season with Julio Jones?
I believe Julio Jones, he's a great fit to any offense. He's a veteran receiver, great hands, great work ethic, great route running. I think he really can get the job done there. I think what we've kind of seen in the past is Derrick Henry kind of be the powerhouse for that offense.
Yeah.
Kind of just, running the show there. And I think that offense would really need to diversify. That offensive coordinator, it's a new one, right? The Titans got. He would have to, he has to make a lot of changes, adapt to a lot of different things to, kind of just meet what the fans require of them, to put some points on the board. Joe, I don't think we need to be worried about how he's going to fit in. He's a great receiver. I think he can fit in really well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Julio Jones is a huge add for them, but even with him, they already had a pretty good offense, and by making it a little bit better, I don't think it's going to take them that far. So for me, the Titans' expectations for a successful season would probably be a divisional round playoff berth, or getting into the second round of the playoffs. And that's because this offense is Super Bowl worthy, but the defense, not so much. I don't think it's good enough to go any farther. They have some good pieces, but no all-pro pieces like that. They have the people like Kevin Byard or Jeffrey Simmons, but they're not top-tier elite players that are going to be huge playmakers for this defense. And like you said, there's a new offensive coordinator. There's a new receiver in Julio Jones. They lost two of their top tight ends. They have a lot of moving parts in this offense with their former offensive coordinator, now the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. So there's just a lot of moving parts, some new calibrating that they have to do. They just have to figure out how to make that offense gel in one season. So I think they're good enough to win a game in the playoffs, but I just don't think they're as good as the top teams in the AFC. I don't even think they're a top 5 team.
Yeah, I think what the GM said, the Tennessee Titans GM said, he said this move was necessary, and I think I completely agree with him. The Titans, they've been close in the playoffs, and they've been right there, but they've been so reliant on Derrick Henry. So adds another aspect to the Tennessee Titans offense, and it gives Ryan Tannehill more options with AJ Brown and Julio Jones to throw to as a targets. Mm-hmm. And with Ryan Tannehill, even though he isn't the best quarterback in the league, he can still get the job done. I think it was a couple years ago, he had the best pass accuracy. So this team is, if they want to go far, they really need to be reliant on this offense. And if their offense can step up with Julio Jones, Derrick Henry, just trucking people everywhere, this team can go. I think they can go far.
Yeah, and I agree. I think Tannehill's, a very average quarterback. I think, he's nearing 32 years old now. I think he had an average career with Miami. And I think he doesn't really fall into where all the QB standards we see now in the league, with Mahomes and Breeze and Rodgers. It's a different game now because, these guys are breaking records and, doing things that, we've never seen before. Mahomes has really changed the game. He's setting expectations higher than ever, right? So I'm not really sure how Tannehill fits into this era. I'm not saying I'm not sure if he is the man to get the job done, but I will definitely agree with you guys when I say this offense really needs to diversify. I think every defense they're going to face is going to expect Derrick Henry, to run that ball. Yeah, but I'm not sure what they're going to do to stop it, but at the same time, if they have a strategy for it, I'm pretty sure they can get it done, So, I mean, but I will say, I think Julio Jones is in better hands with Tannehill, a younger QB, than he is in the hands of Matt Ryan. He's got a great target. He's got a good, decent O-line. I think it's just really up to him to get it done. But also in retrospect, we have to realize where Julio Jones is coming in from. He wants to win. He doesn't care about money. He just wanted to leave that team because he knew he couldn't win there. He doesn't care about money. He doesn't care about where he is on the team, status-wise or fame-wise. He just wants to win. And that embarrassment that Patriots gave them in 2017, that one had to sting. I think, especially a player that's been in that arena, that's been in the Super Bowl, I think they really, they lose that aspect. I think they really want to go back and win it all. We see Peyton Manning, losing to the Seahawks, and it hurt really bad for him, and he came back and he won it, right? And I think that he has that same kind of mentality. It doesn't matter where he goes. I think he just really wants to win.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I think Tannehill is going to be a key part of this offense. I think he's going to be an X factor, and we just have to see where they go.
Yeah, so since we covered the NFL, let's move on to the NBA. And with the playoffs underway, there have been 8 teams already eliminated from the first round, and we have a clear view of the contenders, so we can predict who can win the championship. So let's start with the West and the 2 series going on. And we'll first start with the Suns and Nuggets series. So who do you think will win this Suns and Nuggets series, and who do you think will be the MVP? Jason?
Well, for me, I think the MVP of this series will be Chris Paul. And that's because he's the leader of the Suns, who I think will win the series. And the reason I think he'll be the MVP is, although he's not the best player on that team, that will be Devin Booker, I think he'll have the largest impact because this team is young. I think there are a lot of players under 25 years old for this team, so they don't have much playoff experience, especially being the Suns, who haven't been on the playoffs the past couple years until this year. And I think the Suns are going to need him to be the leader to guide the rest of the team, to help lead them through the series and help them win the series. And I think he'll be the difference, and he'll make the largest impact in the series, even though, like I said, he won't be necessarily the best player.
And for me, I think this is a great series, man. I think we're really lucky to see this happen because both teams are really great teams. A lot of great cast on this team. But for me, I want to say Jokic, man. I mean, he literally got the NBA MVP last night. I know it's a game of Book versus Jokic for a lot of people, but to me, I'll take Jokic every time. I think he's a more rounded player when it comes to efficiency, offense, defense. I'd really just rather have Jokic on my team, and I'm mainly saying that also because of his supporting cast. With Murray out of the game with that injury, he's really doing a lot of the work. And
it's definitely a huge loss.
Yeah, and I think he's, he needs to be valued for that. And I think that's why I'm picking Jokic a lot of the time. Book is also a great player, but he has a much better supporting cast. Chris Paul is a veteran with that very high IQ. What he brings to the floor with his knowledge of the game and all the experiences of him being in the playoffs, I think that is a great tool and asset for that Suns team. So Jokic, without that knowledge going in, I think he would be the MVP of the series. Now, when we talk about who's going to win, I think it's really going to be a close game. I think it's going to be probably a 7-game series. I want the Nuggets to win, I feel like, but I'm thinking the Suns are going to close it out. I mean, and by me saying Jokic, I'm not saying Book is not a great player. He's a great player. I mean, he averaged 30 points a game for that first series. And he closed that round 1 with a 47-point game.
Incredible.
That is amazing basketball right there. So he's a great player, and I think we're really blessed to see this because we're going to really just witness some great basketball. I mean, we have DeAndre Ayton, we have, Jay Crowder, who was riling up LeBron, in the last series. So, this is going to be a great game of basketball between both these teams. But my overall pick, I think Jokic is the most valued player in this series, and I really want the Nuggets to win. I'm actually not sure. I'd love to see both teams win because Chris Paul winning a ring would be amazing. Book winning a ring would be amazing, but Jokic winning a ring also amazing. I mean, picked 41st in the NBA draft during a Taco Bell commercial.
Yeah.
Man got the MVP last night. He's been in the playoffs before. He's lost in the playoffs a lot, and I think that kind of intensity and what that does to him, I think he has a hunger for it, and I think he really wants to win. So seeing him win would be amazing. So it's gonna be a great series, guys, and I think we're really excited to see it happen right in front of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you watch game one, like that game was just amazing. Like that momentum shift for the Suns and everything. Like that was one of the best like games I watched this entire playoffs. And for if I had to pick one player on the MVP, I would agree with Jason, like Chris Paul, because this guy's impact goes way more than the stat sheet can show. His impact, like he's been in multiple playoffs in scenarios, Western Conference Finals, playoff first round exits. He's been through it all, so he knows what it's like, and he leads this team. He was the most clutch player last year in the league, and with that clutch gene in him, I think he would be very vital to this team during those final 4 minutes of the game, and his impact helping others with his IQ and playmaking abilities. This is what helped the Suns elevate their games and get to the second seed in the West. So I think Chris Paul is the MVP of the series. Now, with Jokic, I would go with Jokic, but with all the other players out, like Jamal Murray, PJ Dozier, Will Barton, he's scheduled to make his return sometime soon, maybe in game 2 or game 3. But with those players out, I'm not sure how Jokic will be able to use his playmaking abilities as well as he did in the regular season with all his players healthy. So that's why I want to go with Chris Paul. And with this, who will win the series, it'll be very tough, like Sam said. It's very hard to predict because these two teams are really good. But I think the Nuggets will move on in a 7-game series just because they have more experience and they had the regular season MVP in Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great series no matter what the outcome is. And it's just going to be awesome to witness.
Yeah, so let's move on to that Jazz and Clippers series in the West, where there are two duos clashing against each other in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard against Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. So which duo will show up first, which duo will show up in this Jazz and Clippers series?
Man, I hate talking about the Clippers team, man, because what they did to the Mavs, that was painful. So I'm not a really big fan of talking about this. But, if we recorded this 2 days ago, before that first game, I would have to go with, Kawhi and PG because, what they did to the Mavs, Kawhi was literally a robot. He automatic buckets. He would dribble the ball to that mid-range. I knew he was going to make it. No matter who played defense on him, no matter if they fouled him, I knew he was going to make that shot because that's how he is. But at the same time, after last night's game, I really had to switch my mind because I think Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, that's a great defense. That's a great team right there. They combined for over 60 last night, and we just can't overlook how great that Jazz defense is. I mean, they kept Kawhi and PG shooting and missing. They kept Reggie Jackson to 9 points. I mean, Reggie Jackson was shooting lights out against the Mavs, deep threes, and we see clearly how different this Jazz defense is. And I think they have a great team. The whole Jazz. They got Bogdanovich helping. They have Michael Jordan Clarkson helping. They have a great team. So before, if you asked me, I would have said the Clippers. But man, it's really intense to see how this defense is making this Clippers team, really ball out. I think they have to put in a lot of work. And just Marcus Morris being blocked at a 3-point shot for the game winner yesterday. Like, that was insane. That was amazing basketball. That was amazing defense. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that intense defense throughout this whole series. But for this duo, I think I'm going to take Mitchell and Gobert. Even, Bogdanovich helping, Clarkson helping. I think it's going to be that's going to be the great factor for this whole series.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. The Jazz duos, like, you can put any player next to Donovan Mitchell, like Rudy Gobert, Bogdan Bogdanovich. But I think one more player that we also forgot is Mike Conley, who's been injured. So I think when he when he comes back, he's going to be has a great impact on this team. But I'm still going to have to go with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. I really feel like Kawhi Leonard only tries whenever his team is really in trouble. because you saw what he did against the Mavs when they were down 3-2. The next 2 games he went off. And I just feel like him and Paul George, I don't know what's going on with Paul George, but I feel like he will be able to get back into a rhythm after getting used to this Jazz defense, which is such a step up from the Mavs defense. So once they're able to get in rhythm from being used to that defense, I think they'll be able to play better. Because remember, this is still one of the top duos in the league, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. So I think because of that, the Jazz just has a better supporting cast in general. I think Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are going to be the best duo of players on either side. It won't necessarily lead to a win for the Clippers in the series. I think it will, but it may not. But in the end, I think those 2 players, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, are going to have the biggest impact as a duo on this series.
So, Jason, you think the return of Pandemic P is out of the question then?
I don't know. I think it's a fair.
I don't know, man.
It's a fair assumption because the Jazz stepped up. The Jazz is a huge step up in defense from the Mavs. So I think
100%.
Yeah,
I hate to agree, but I know it is true.
Yeah, so I just think that once he gets used to that step up in defense, I think he'll be able to come back and be at least a good two-way player to help out Kawhi.
Yeah, I agree with Jason here. Even though Paul George has some nights where he's Pandemic P and other nights where he's the playoff P, I feel like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are the best duo, especially because they can both create their own shots and they can hit the mid-range and 3-point shot. Like Sam said, whenever Kawhi steps up to that mid-range and he shoots it, every time it's automatic. It's a bucket every time. And during the Mavs and Clippers series, the Clippers attempted as much 3-point attempts as they did 2-point attempts. So that shows they want to shoot this three ball, with Reggie Jackson, Terrence Mann hit a couple, Marcus Morris, Nicholas Batum. So this team is full of shooters, and with that in mind, Rudy Gobert is more of a guy who's in the paint, who's blocking shots, and he can't really switch on to guys who can dribble the ball like that, or playmakers, or get to their spots as quickly. And because of that, I feel like the Clippers duo will be better on the offense and defensive end. But Rudy Gobert will be a great player on the offensive end because with the Clippers, they have Serge Ibaka out, and they really don't have that much of size. And their biggest the big is 7 or 6'10" in Ivica Zubac. So he's not that tall and can't really guard Rudy Gobert as much. But if he can step it up in defensive end and do what he did in game 1 when he blocked that shot and try to defend the perimeter, I feel like they have a chance. But Paul George and Kawhi Leonard will be the better duo. And I think the Jazz will win this series because of their depth with Jordan Clarkson, Joe Ingles, Bogdanovich, and that entire team.
Yeah, 100%, man. I want the Jazz to win. I think they are going to win, and I want them to win because I cannot. Man. I mean, Marcus Morris getting blocked, that was honestly one of the greatest things I've seen because that just put a smile on my face. That was amazing. I can't stand the Clippers from last year's playoffs of the bubble with how wild they were against the Mavs to even this year. It didn't get any much better. They're still a bunch of rowdy guys. A lot of them are. Yeah. Kawhi is whatever. Kawhi just comes in and plays and goes on the bench and sits down. That's all he does. But the rest of that team, I really can't stand a lot of them. So I want the Jazz to win. And I believe they can win. That defense is really good.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough series for either team. It may not be as exciting as the Suns or the Nuggets, but I think it will be a very cool series to watch.
Any game in the Western Conference Finals, no matter what team is going to be in there,
it's going to be good.
I think it's going to be good. Yeah, the Western Conference is just stacked, and I think that kind of sucks for a lot of the teams because competitively, the Mavs could be killing it in the East.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's part of life. Playing in the West is more fun, more competitive. Insane games to watch, more entertaining. So it's gonna be exciting for sure. Both series gonna be exciting.
For sure.
Yeah, and I think it's the first time we'll have some new team reach the finals because I think
for sure. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I'm excited for that.
Yeah,
no LeBron or Steph for the past 10 years. So
yeah, that's gonna be definitely a new kind of finals. Definitely gonna be great for us, great for the fans, great for the people watching basketball. I think it's a good pace of change.
Yeah.
The only thing that's not good is the NBA. What do you call it? TV. Like, the money is not coming in. But we'll move on. We'll move on to the East, where we have the 76ers and Hawks series and the Bucks and Nets series. So we'll move on towards the East, where 3 championship contenders are trying to move on to this Eastern Conference Finals. The Hawks have had playoff success in the first round against the Knicks, but now they face the top-seeded 76ers. So will the playoff experience of the 76ers or the lack of the Hawks experience impact the series? Jason, I'll start with you.
I'm going to say no. I think the Hawks may be young, but to be honest, I don't think they play like it. They don't play scared. They don't play nervous. They don't play like they're in too bright lights. And I think that's a very good thing for them in this series. And I think that's going to impact them when playing against the 76ers. They put up a lot of points. They can score. They have Bojan Bogdanovic, Trae Young, obviously. They have some good pieces like Kevin Huerter and Danilo Gallinari off the bench. They have some good bigs like John Collins and Clint Capella. I think that they're tough. They have play with that attitude, like a young, arrogant attitude, and they don't care who they're playing. And especially with no big crowds, which is mainly what playoff experience is for, there's less pressure. And I think that's key because playoff experience has to do with pressure. And the less pressure there is, the less importance there is about playoff experience. So do I think playoff experience will impact the series? No, I don't.
I mean, I would disagree there, Jason, because I feel like the Hawks' inexperience in the playoffs arena is definitely a deciding factor. I mean, the Sixers have been there before. They know what to do. They know what it feels like to lose in the playoffs. Hell, I think I've seen Embiid cry more times than I need to see. I think he cries every year that he loses. But I think that builds character, and I think that builds ambition for him and hunger for him to win. And I think that 76 intensity versus that Hawks inexperience is really what it comes to. And I think I'm taking Sixers all the way in this series. Like you said, Lou Will with the Hawks, I thought he would be able to be more of a deciding factor there, but I'm really not seeing it. Trae Young is a hell of a player, talented player. He has a decent cast with him, but I think Embiid and Simmons, that's a great team right there. That's a duo that has, basically been unstoppable in the Eastern Conference this whole season. So I think, in my opinion, I think the Sixers are going to take it. But I think it's going to be a good series, though. I'm not sure it's going to go to a Game 7. But I think the Sixers could do it. I think that Hawks inexperience is a really big deciding factor.
Yeah, just to be clear, I still think the Sixers are going to win. I just don't think playoff experience will have a huge impact.
Yeah, I agree with Sam here. I think the playoff experience will matter. And it hasn't shown yet. That's because they're in the early stages of the playoffs, meaning like we're only Game 1 and Game 2. But when it comes down to elimination, we'll see the real, like, where the playoff experience shows. Because the 76ers have been in those situations, even in that situation where Kawhi Leonard hit that crazy game winner in 2019. So 76ers know what it's like to win and to lose. And they have a great head coach now with Doc Rivers. I didn't think that Brett Brown was the guy in Philly last year. But now with Doc Rivers, he can make adjustments, and what he did in Game 2, putting Shake Milton in the game, and then they won that game in Game 2. With that playoff experience with Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, they know okay, it's time for me to sit down and let the other players take over because it's not my game, and knowing that being under pressure with all they know what it's like. And for the Hawks, they haven't really been there, even though they have veterans like Solomon Hill went to the finals last year, Bogdanovic in the Euro League, and Lou Williams. I just feel like the 76ers will pull away and win in maybe 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, so I think we all agree. Hold on. Sorry, let me just finish this point real quick. I think we all agree that the 76ers will win this series, but I think I have the underdog opinion here. But the reason I say no is because the Hawks' goal right now was to split the series on the 76ers court. And I think because they have home court advantage now for the next 2 games, I think they accomplished their goal of making this series tied up instead of being down 2-0. So I don't think the playoff experience matters because the Sixers will beat them anyway. But I do think the Hawks will put up a fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing we're kind of overlooking is the Sixers pick up on Seth Curry earlier this year.
Yeah,
that man is amazing. He shot what 30 points last game, or no, 21 points, I think. Yeah, and that he's a great player. He is an amazing lights out shooter. You bring him off the bench, or you can start him, whatever you would do with him. He's a catch and shooter kind of guy. And I think that addition, to consider the fact that Simmons doesn't shoot any threes to begin with, I think that makes a huge difference. And I think the Sixers are utilizing all their players in a much smarter way than the Hawks are, because you have Tobias Harris, he scored 22. You have Embiid with 40. Their bench out performing well as well. Compared to the Hawks, I think they're utilizing all their players a lot more, playing a much better team ball. Where I think Trae Young is also in a situation like the Mavs with Luka. I think they're expecting him to do a lot, and I don't think he can do everything on that team. And I think it kind of sucks because he's so young, he's talented. But I think, I'm thinking the Sixers are going to take it in maybe 5-6 games. Yeah,
one thing's for sure, the Hawks can shoot, and so can the Sixers. But I think the Sixers, I agree with you, the Sixers are definitely going to win this series pretty easily.
Yeah, so we'll move on to the Bucks and Nets series, in which each team has a big 3 of its own. We have Middleton, Holiday, and Giannis for the Bucks, and Harden, Kyrie, and KD for the Nets. With James Harden's injury in Game 1, 47 seconds into the game, and being ruled out for Games 1, 2, and 3, who do you think will win that series since James Harden's been injured, and how will that injury affect the series? Sam?
I mean, to simply put him in, I don't think it's going to hurt them at all. I think KD and Kyrie, the way they're playing, they can make it to the finals. Hell, they could probably play the entire finals without James Harden, and they can probably win it. Those are 2 great players. KD has been phenomenal coming back from that injury this season. He has been playing amazing. And he's always been one of probably the best offensive player we've seen in a long time. The way he shoots, the way he drives to the bucket, I think it's very unique, and I think it's something that a lot of players can't stop on defense. And I'm really sad to say that because I don't want to see the Bucks losing, but I think the Nets are going to take it. Giannis is a beast. He really is. I mean, you mentioned those big threes. I think it's honestly like a ginormous 3 versus a big 3, because the Nets are still packed deep past those 3 players. So I think it's Giannis, being a beast is great, but the Nets are a pack of beasts, man, with that roster. So I think we can really see the Nets making it to the finals. I don't know. I think with James Harden, it would be, they'd perform even better. But I don't think him not being there for the first 3 games is going to make a big difference on them. Especially defensively, I think they can do great. Offensively, I think, they might lose a couple points, but I think they're going to win it.
Yeah, and sorry I have to say this, but like Charles Barkley said, Nets are sweeping. And like Charles Barkley, guarantee. Yeah, I think the Nets are going to win this really easily. And Harden's injury isn't going to have an effect. Because where are the Bucks? Where is their big 3? I think it's obvious that Chris Middleton isn't really a capable number 2 option in the playoffs. And like you said, Kyrie and KD have been balling. KD scored 32, Kyrie scored 22 last game, and they were up by 49. What are you doing being down 49 if you're the Bucks? And I just think that's going to be the story of this series. The Bucks are going to get swept by the Nets, already being down 2-0. But I wouldn't be surprised if they win Game 3 just because I said it.
I feel bad for my man Giannis, man.
Yeah,
it's the same thing every year.
Yeah,
for this team.
Yeah,
it's sad. It really is sad.
For sure. And like you said, the Nets are deep. They still have Joe Harris. They have Mike James, an undrafted. He's been a really good role player for them. And Blake Griffin is back.
Blake Griffin.
He's back to dunking.
You got DeAndre Jordan too. You can't forget him.
Yeah.
It's a great team, man.
Yeah, I don't know. They have so much talent.
Some of these guys are definitely getting paid in Dogecoin or something. There's no way. There's no way they can pay all these players. But
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, The Bucks just does not run that deep, man. I mean, they got that man Justin Jackson on that team. The Mavericks didn't even want him, and he's on that team. I mean, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. I mean, I think it's gonna be a blowout, but yeah, I don't know. The way Kyrie and KD play, man, those are two unstoppable players.
Yeah.
Again, with individually, they did great things on their own and their own teams.
Now combined,
yeah,
pretty much unbeatable. Even with a lot of people doubting them without Harden, based on their record, I think they've been doing really good. Harden may be one of the most important players, but they're still good enough to win the finals without him.
Yeah, I think if James Harden was playing on the Rockets still and he got injured, I think he would still be playing in games 2 or 3. But since they have these other two stars, and KD and Kyrie,
they don't need him.
They can honestly rest. Yeah.
Yeah,
he can be fully healthy.
Yeah, instead of being like 70 or 80%.
Yeah.
And if like a fact that I saw, like, it was kind of crazy, but like the entire Nets team is shooting 50, 40, 90 as a team. Like,
how hard is that to do as a player?
I know.
And if not just the players, guys, we can't overlook that Steve Nash is their coach.
Yeah.
One of the greatest to play, and now he is leading this team. And I think that is awesome. I mean, I'm not a big fan of how this team was structured because it's just too broken, man. But I do love Nash. I think he's a great player, and I think he can really get this done. Maybe we can see a ring finally on his finger for him with how the Nets may make it to the finals. But yeah.
Yeah, I think the Nets, they're not only like stacked on like by their players, but their coaching staff too. Because they're like Mike D'Antoni
and Steve Nash. So many good players.
They have so many good coaches, players. Like even like you can go all the way to general manager if you wanted to,
Yeah.
But
just
I think
a great organization.
Yeah.
But I mean, when we talk about New York, I do want to bring up the Knicks because it is sad. It is that Knicks had a hell of a run this year. They really did, and I was just talking to a guy from New York last week, and he mentioned the Nets can win and New York would be whatever, but if the Knicks won,
it would be crazy.
It would be insane there because they're really the heart of that city. So I mean, it's awesome if the Nets can win, but man, I just had to mention it sucked the Knicks going to come through there. They really had a great run this year, and I was really excited to see how far they would go in the playoffs. But I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah. I think the Nets are going to go all the way really easily, and it's going to be a cakewalk, Bucks sweep, and we'll see from there.
Yep, we'll see how that series goes, and we all have them sweeping the Bucks, so it'll be very interesting to see.
All right, guys, those are some great topics to talk about. I think we're really excited. I'm really excited for the playoffs. Really excited to watch the finals, especially with the Western Conference, man. But before we finish off today, I really want to ask y'all, man, what do you think about the future of Luka Doncic?
Jeremy, you go ahead.
I mean, this guy is special. Like, he's 22 years old, and he's already in MVP conversations. I think he should have been a finalist this year.
I think he should at least been considered, I think.
Yeah.
Like,
I think he was only voted 6th in MVP, which is, like, insane. Like, how is he? Like, he's been completely carrying this team this entire season. Like his future is, like, he can win multiple MVPs. And it's just that how the team is constructed around him. Like, Porzingis hasn't been the best.
Let's just talk round one stats for him. All right, he played all 7 games. He averaged 35 points per game, and one of the games he was kind of injured. I think he only scored 22 points.
Yeah.
Even with that low of a game, he still averaged 35 points, guys.
Yeah,
that is insane. 10 assists a game, almost 8 rebounds a game. That is amazing stats for a kid this young. His second ever playoffs, third year in the NBA.
And he even passed Michael Jordan for average playoffs points per game. Only 2 seasons.
At that age. It's crazy to think about. I think he's going to be, once LeBron goes, I think he's going to be the runner. I think he's going to be the front runner for the best player for the next decade of NBA.
For sure. With international players, you never know. You never saw them in college play, and you never know how they're going to develop over the years. But I think he
developed pretty nice.
Yeah, within the last 3 years, he has done things that are insane. Even from his rookie year to this third year, he has improved significantly, and that is a hard thing to say because
he's already so good.
Started his rookie year amazingly, and you can't forget the fact that this kid's been playing since he was 16 years old professionally. He's a great player, and I hope the Mavs can make some real good moves for him because he deserves to win. Because even after the games, he thought it was his fault. He said, I should have played better, and I think he's an up and coming player. He's going to be a great leader. He has really great chemistry with all the players on the Mavs. He's just having fun out there, man. It's honestly inspiring to watch him play basketball because, a lot of us, when we play, we get really competitive and we kind of forget why we play. But when you watch Luka play, he's just smiling, he's having a great time. And I think it's very unique. You don't see that kind of players a lot more in the NBA. A lot of players are starting to be more hostile, take it to social media, talk crap on Twitter and Instagram, whatever it is. But this kid, I'm going to say kid because I'm older than him, right? I'm a year older than him. I'm going to say kid. This kid is having fun. He's just going out there and trying his best. And I think I'm so excited for his future. I'm so excited for what he's going to do. And I'm just hoping the Mavs can just do something for him. To just one player would make a huge difference.
I think he's going to be a great player, and I think he's going to be the face of the NBA very, very soon.
Yep. The Mavs have to make some offseason changes too for this guy to deep in the playoffs. He would be amazing to watch.
Who I really wanted before the free agency was Bradley Beal. I think Bradley Beal would have been a huge addition to the Mavericks team. He's a veteran with great experience, great ball handler. I think him and Luka together, I think they would have done a great job. I'm not sure if Beal's so much focused on being a star and being, recognized like that. I think he wants to win. I think he has an intention. So I thought he would have been a great addition. But, DC had to sign him for no reason. I don't know where they're going.
But the Wizards are looking to trade for Kristaps Porzingis. Not saying Bradley Beal is on the table. But,
I don't know. Once Kristaps, you can give us a Dogecoin or two, maybe. I don't care. Just take him.
I think the future for the Mavs is very exciting as long as they do the right things around Luka Doncic.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well,
he's definitely going to get a crazy contract. I know that for sure.
Supermax.
For sure.
Well, thank you for listening to this Under 24 podcast, and we want to give a huge shout out to Sam for joining us as a guest this week.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you for having me, man. This was fun. I think I think you guys are gonna run Shannon Sharp and Kid Bayless a run for their money, man.
Yeah, thank you, bro. Yeah. Thank you.
Of course.
We hope that we hope that you share the word of this podcast with others, and hope that you follow us on our Instagram account Under 24 and support this podcast. And until next time, we out.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good one. Good night.
Good night.